Hey, welcome to the Change Energizer Hot Seat Podcast, the place where leaders are dropped into the hot seat to open up about high-stake wins and reveal the trust X factor behind their triumphs. I'm your host, Scott Carley, the Trust Energizer, and I believe the confidence people have in the way they show up, your character and expertise is a real game changer. And when trust is high, teams don't just perform, they pull off legendary Super Bowl wins. Today's guest is Patty Dominguez from Chicago, and we are going to have so much fun. Patty and I share so many of the same values about trust and about reaching out to people that I wanted her to come on the show today, and we could just talk about some of those things that we both love about trust and what an impact it makes in the business world. So Patty, we're glad to have you here. Tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Thank you, Scott. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And when you and I first connected on LinkedIn, what was really just very clear, he's like, oh, he talks about trust. I love that, because we're in a trust economy. So I'm sure we're going to have a really great conversation. So I'm Patty Dominguez, founder of More Leverage Solutions at moreleverage.io. And I've been an entrepreneur now since it'll be 13 years in January, if you can believe that, which is incredible. Wow. Yeah. And I've gone through it all. They call it the greatest roller coaster ride ever. I completely agree with that. And with that, there's been a lot of scars and bruises and all the things in between, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And so what really brings us a lot of joy is helping small business owners, the everyday small business owner, decipher what is this world of online marketing and AI. And so we kind of blend both to help to position small businesses so that they're the thought leaders and authority based on credibility and trust. There you go.
That's really great. I mean, marketing is so critical. Getting the word out about who you are, where you are, what you do, and then using AI. I mean, I don't know what I would do without AI at this point. I use it daily in big things and small things, and it's just huge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks for being here. So Chicago, tell us about Chicago.
Well, Chicago is home, and I have lived other places. I was born in LA. My parents came here when I was really little, so my whole upbringing has been in Chicago, but I've lived in other cities and countries and always coming back to Chicago. We're very family oriented, and it's a lot of fun, not so much in the winter time. And I feel like the older that I get, the more I realize I'm like, I think we need to go south. I tell my husband, and but it works. Great food here, great great pics of anything you can think of at any time of the day. And it's just it's like a melting pot of all the good stuff. So it's good. It's fun.
So I live in Austin, Texas. We have some winter Texans that come down from Chicago and spend the winters down here.
Yeah.
Because our winters aren't nearly as bad as they are up there. But I love Chicago. And I remember a few years ago, I went to do some training and speaking there.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because I could, ride the tram all the way from the airport to downtown Chicago. Yeah. And then I was almost in walking distance, pretty much from my hotel and then where I was speaking. That was pretty cool. I love that.
Yeah. It's fun. It's a good city.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, when you and I connected and we just started talking about, how we help people and help businesses and help them to, figure out what they're doing, how they're going to do it. The medium central thing was trust.
Mm-hmm.
Can I trust you? And I wrote the book, Can I Trust You? And that was a big game changer for me. And then what really happened was I came up with a thing called the Trust Credit Score. Mm-hmm. When I came up with the Trust Credit Score about a way to measure trust, how much I had in what categories and what area, it just was a huge tool to help me rebuild trust that I needed to do in the business world. And then I just started sharing it with people everywhere. And as we talked about it, You do that the same way. So let's just kind of start off and tell me about what trust means to you and where it fits in what you do.
Yeah. So I definitely think that trust is paramount. It's almost like saying, oh, integrity is a core value. It's like it should just be an understood, right? It should be a common denominator for how you operate. It shouldn't be something that is selective, like to say, oh, I'm trustworthy or what have you. What I have found being in business for almost 13 years is that there's a lot of people that will show up, come out of the woodwork. Because if we think about it, the barrier to entry in a lot of different industries is low, right? And so anybody can come and say, oh, I'm an expert in this and that. But what is really telling is how long they're in the game, right? Because everyone is can be a flash in the pan or drive traffic online to help to generate attention and eyeballs. But it's the trust that is earned. And if it's ever broken or falls short of expectation, that means your brand erodes. And when your brand erodes, you don't have that big of a business or that big of an opportunity for the longevity that other businesses that do have trust have in place. So it's apples and oranges, meaning these flash in the pan companies and the ones that are indeed trustworthy.
Yeah, yeah, and I like what you said. Whether it's a flash in the pan or
Mhm.
whether it's got longevity with it, all that makes such a big difference. So just to kind of clarify to everybody who's watching this today, when we started thinking about trust, we came up with the five signals, five major categories of trust. And the first one is your vibe on point, and that has to do with body language. And body language is just how you look, how you show up, the vibe that you bring into the room. Have you ever met somebody when they walk into the room, they change the chemistry? And a
Yes.
lot of times we think about that, and that is, ooh, in a positive way, but they can change the chemistry in a negative way as well. And so that's the first one. The second one is motives. What's your agenda? What are you really up to? What are you trying to do? Are you manipulating things, or do you have a transparency about what you're doing? The third one was integrity or your values. What are your core values? And I don't have to share everybody's values, and everybody doesn't have to share mine, but we have to share a certain level of values for us to be able to walk very long together. And if we don't, then it just won't work. The third one, or the fourth one rather, is skill set, and you kind of mentioned that. What's your expertise? What are you really good at? What are you pretending to be really good at,
Mhm.
but you don't have the certification, you don't have the knowledge, you may not have a degree, but that's okay if you can do the job. But what's the skill set? And then the last one is track record. What have you actually done? And when we put those five things together, then it becomes so much easier on a scale of 1 to 10 how to measure that. And if it's not there, trust is not there, some of those things can be built, they can be improved, they can do better with. And so when you and I started talking about that, you just said yes, yes. And so what is your comment about all of those? Which one of those five, or what do you think about those five?
Well, I definitely think that they apply in every single instance, especially as you're talking about your business. And a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I'm just a small business owner. It's just me," or it doesn't matter, right? It's the brand perception. And the key thing that you talked about is something that I also talk in the marketing that I do is that you want in all those instances proof, not platitudes. And proof could come in the way of your ratings and reviews, right? The fact that a customer took the time to leave you a review says so much of the experience that they had, whether really excellent or not so hot, right? And then in other instances, the small business owner who is referred, there are businesses that are grow on referral only, right? The fact that somebody passed along. I mean, I know when I go out to eat anywhere and I look at a restaurant, I look at the reviews. And these are people that I've never heard of that are leaving reviews that I read and I stop and think about. And I was like, oh, wow, that particular dish is good, or they're really good at XYZ. And so the idea here is that the proof points are really essential, whether it's, media placements like we help people with, or authority, or writing a book, or anything measurable, right? We talk about that being proof points, and that's what you need to help to build trust, right? And then having it be cohesive between that and then the experience that somebody is having with you. So,
Yeah, I love that very much. Somebody said years ago, the proof is in the pudding.
yes,
You know,
indeed.
and trust is not built on what we say; it's built on what we do. It's a behavior thing.
Yes.
I like somebody said, "Your actions speak so loud, I can barely hear what you're saying."
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I like something that Stephen Covey said also: you can't talk your way out of a problem that you have behaved yourself into, but you can behave yourself back into trust, and often faster than you think.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. It's just so much about what you do, and do you have the um, all the ingredients and the mass of doing the right things repeatedly again and again. Now, you said something about reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you trust somebody who has nothing but 5-star reviews and that's all they have?
It's such a good question. In fact, I remember when I was teaching this whole concept of, okay, how do you position your brand so that it stands out, right? As a real category of one. And so part of that is taking a look at reviews or testimonials and whatnot. And one of the best ways to understand that person's real brand as well is look at the reviews, maybe the 1 star, right? If there's a review to say, was it really a thing, or was it just a curmudgeon of a customer, right, who was having a bad day? Because, these customers and clients have a whole lot of power, because they can really skew someone's brand in a way that unfairly is showing that they're this way or that way, and it's really not true. So we also have to take that into account. But taking a look at the negative reviews, I think, is always a really good idea. Or even if you are thinking of hiring a coach or a service provider, to say, hey, what is one area where maybe you've gotten feedback that it's an area of opportunity for you? I mean, we had a client one time said to say that, and I thought that was so powerful. I'm like, nobody's ever asked me that. They're like, yeah,
Yeah.
what's one area? And I said, to be honest with you, I wasn't compartmentalizing progress the way that I should have, because I'm a key takeaway person, right? I don't need to know about the fishing trip. I just want to know how many fish you caught. That's
Yeah.
me. But we also have to take into consideration, what is that customer's experience? They wanted more detail. They wanted the in-betweens. I'm like, that was a huge aha moment for me early on. And so we've implemented that. It's like, you can't over communicate, right? Of course you can, but it's good to communicate as people are going through that customer journey, so that they continue to feel positive about the experience. And that incrementally helps to build trust as well. So those are
Yeah.
the kind of things that we can find ways to see, what's the real thing? Where's the transparency here? What am I not seeing that needs to be seen, right? Helps build trust.
Yeah, I love that. And for all of us to be transparent about what we're doing and what's working or what's not working. I did a presentation a few weeks ago to a nonprofit organization. And so, we're talking about trust and, body language. And, in it, some of the things that we talk about, some of the things that make up body language is confident posture, consistent eye contact, genuine smile, clean and professional attire, fidgeting, all of those things. And somebody wrote back. They didn't speak up then, but they wrote in the referral, said, um, "You need to be careful about what you say on body language, because if somebody has a Tourette's
Oh, Tourette's.
syndrome,
Yeah.
or they have HDAD, or
Yeah.
they have other issues that are genuine mental situations."
Yeah.
And I was really thankful that they said that,
Yeah.
because from now on, when I move forward and talk about, your body language and your appearance and how you show up, I will be able to say, now, there are times when there are genuine mental disorders and problems that people have to deal with, maybe treated medically, and you need to recognize that. And
Yeah.
sometimes recognize, give them credit for going above and beyond that stuff to be able to still show up and with a powerful body language that really still makes a huge difference.
So can I make a comment to that? I think that's really
Yeah, please
interesting
do.
because a couple of things. There's something in neurolinguistic programming is called mirroring, right? And I have to remind myself of that because as you can tell, and I think it's cultural, that I'm a hand talker. I'm like, and that's very natural for me. So a feedback that I got a while back from a dear mentor of mine, he said, just be cognizant of that, that you sometimes you over, use hands and stuff and like really look at the other person that you're speaking to lean into their demeanor because it shows that you're aware, right, of their presence and then maybe how they want to see information translate. And I always remember that. I'm like, that's such a good point. And then the other thing, the fact that somebody came to you and said that about people maybe that have ADHD or something like that, or maybe they're neurodivergent, they're on the spectrum. That's something that we have to take into consideration. So I think what it really is just being very cognizant of the person receiving the information. And are you modifying it to the person who is hearing you to make sure that they feel that they're internalizing it or receiving it? I think that's really important to help build trust as well.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It was a godsend for me that they
Yeah.
said, and they said it in such a neutral way. They
Hmm.
didn't attack me about it. They just said, you just need to be aware of this. And it does. It changes the way that I will approach that. So it was really good. Well, I wanna ask you just a couple of questions maybe that can help everybody in our audience. How do you tailor your training to match the trust challenges in our culture or industry today? I mean, so understanding the nuances of different industries and team dynamics, not just a generic theory. How do you tailor what you do uh, to accommodate different areas?
Yeah. Well, first, on our end, when we work with clients, we take a look at first and foremost the industry that they're in. And really recognizing when it comes to building trust and credibility in that industry, what is it that they need to know and how do we help them close the gap on it? So, for example, if it's in the legal industry or maybe the med spa industry, the ratings and reviews thing come into play. And if they lack a system or a process for that, they're really leaving a lot of that credibility building on the table versus, for example, in consulting, which what we do more, it's consulting and AI and whatnot, it's really thought leadership, right? And that thought leadership is cemented by articles that you're writing, where are you showing up, these types of podcast opportunities to help to build trust. So it really is modified depending on the client that we're working with, the industry that they are in, and it's customized in that we take a look at what is it that they have or don't have and how do we help them close the gap so that in this day and age they're not a flash in the pan, they're earning the trust that is necessary to help them be seen as an authority in their space.
Yeah, I love that. Being able to speak the language of different companies and cultures makes a big difference as well.
Yeah.
You know, that for some reason, people in the trades really like me. And so I'm coming in and I'm talking to superintendents and construction organizations, and they love me. It's just something I like anyway. But my vernacular and the way I approach things really resonates with them.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the financial advisors in the financial world they like it too. And so learning to understand their language and put trust in a language that makes sense to them is a big deal. And body language is that first one we talked about that was a big one.
So can I make a comment to that?
Yeah,
This is something that I learned as well. So I come from a very blue collar family, right? My dad was a car painter and my mom was a factory worker. And the one thing that my dad had, he had a whole lot of charisma. Like he could go out to dinner with CEOs and play racquetball with his friends who were cops and, the head of the police department, et cetera. It's really interesting guy, very, very charismatic. And I asked him one day, I'm like, Dad, I feel like everybody really likes you because everybody liked him. He was just a personable human being. And he's like, I could tell you the secret. He's like, you have to have range, range. And then I always remember that because
Explain that range. What do you
yeah,
mean?
yeah. So I'll explain it with a career experience that I had. I worked for a boutique consulting agency in 2008 in that era. And one of the things that was interesting is we would go into uh, consumer packaged goods companies, right? We'd go to the plant floor where the manufacturing was happening to review how things were being made, how they were manufactured, and then our team would put the results together and present it to the boardroom. So I came up with this little slogan. I said, we can, communicate from the plant floor to the boardroom. That's range. Because not everyone has that ability to have a conversation with the plant floor, could be the mechanic who's, prepping the line or what have you, or washing down the line, all the way to the CEO or the private equity firm that has a group that is taking a look at what are the results in the numbers here. So that's range. But when you have that ability in range, I think that says a lot to help build credibility and trust.
Oh man, that's huge. I love the way that you describe that. I've always said I have a tendency to be somebody who mirrors the people that are in the trenches, but I've had to learn to be somebody who is up there in the office coordinating,
Exactly.
uh, how things are going in the trenches and the big picture. And the big picture and the small picture are two different things. But to be able to understand both of those and to articulate it and tie it together, this is why these two are important to each other. So all of that fosters the confidence that I have in the leadership and the confidence I have in my team to deliver what we want to make happen. So
So
yeah,
here's the thing, Scott, with that, that's an innate gift and ability that you have that most people apparently don't have. Because I love it. I love it when people are like, I love how you explain these concepts in a way that is just really easy to understand. Right. And it's like, I don't need to be the smartest person in the room and over intellectualize what I'm saying. I just want to have a conversation with people on the receiving end. I want to know that they can understand what I'm saying, kind of thing. Or it doesn't matter. Again, that whole slogan that I had, I could go from the plant floor to the boardroom, people would get it and it would just really resonate. And that's the thing. It's like you have range, I have range, and it's just something that is so valuable that a lot of people don't have that ability.
yeah, I love that. All of my formal training is in theology.
Mm-hmm.
So my mentor spoke in metaphors, and he used metaphors to take very complex situations and explain them so that everybody could understand them. A farmer
The
would
gift.
sow some seed, and the seeds fell on good ground. Seed fell among thorns, and the fowls of the air came and got it. And so I have found that when I need to explain something that either area, whether it's in the boardroom or down on the floor, didn't understand it. We were talking the other day about, I'm a big believer in helping teams be able to build high trust with each other so that they can take, big projects across the finish line. And one of the things that I came up with is, does your team have a 4-wheel drive? So I've got a Jeep Gladiator pickup, and sometimes I don't need it very often, but if it ices down here in Texas, which is rare, I can put that thing in 4-wheel drive, and now, man, I can maneuver the roads. If I have to go off road, when I put it into 4-wheel drive, I've got a traction that I didn't have. And so, telling about teams, does your team need, not all the time, but occasionally, to shift into a 4-wheel drive so that we have traction in all four wheels? And it's just amazing when I start saying that, people immediately, oh, I get it. That makes sense. You probably use stuff like that. Do you have one that you use? What would it be?
Oh, that's a really good question. You're kind of stumping me a little bit, but I mean, I agree with everything that you said and how absolutely essential it is. And I don't know, just as we look at, I don't know, that's a really good question. It's a really good
You have
question.
them. I won't put you on the spot right now, but
Yeah,
later as we're talking, if one of those, pops up with you, because your metaphors and my metaphors will be unique
yeah.
based on our background. But let me ask you another question. How do you help teams identify where trust is fractured or leaking? How do you help them with that?
I think where we have helped with the implementation of different projects is really looking at, and I can almost always say, in my experience, it is a gap in communication, right? Where it is where expectations fall short and that gap was not identified. And I think that one of the things that has been really helpful, certainly when I was a consultant, and even now in the business that we do, we always have what's called a table stakes meeting at the beginning. And the table stakes meeting is something where at the launch of any project, we get an understanding. How do you like to receive information? What does success look like for you? What is good about this, or what is bad about this, or what have you, or challenging, I should say, not bad. But what that helps to really assess is that now we have level set things so that the cadence of communication, how you like to receive the communication, what success looks like, having the milestone marker so that we know where we're going and why we're going, and anything that goes off rails, we can help to mitigate it soon enough so it doesn't go entirely off rails. So that's all based on clear communication. But when you have that, and you can say, hey, do you remember when we visited at the beginning and how you said this is what success looks like and this is where we were going, and we were all nodding heads? So now we've kind of deterred from that, and that could be equated to scope creep. So let's reel it back in, because that was what was important. Is that still the case? Oh, you're right. That's true. This and that. So again, it's just singing off the same page, as they say, is what's really essential. And so it's really incumbent upon the person leading the charge to make sure that that clarity is absolutely paramount and understood throughout all the participants. And so by having that one meeting at the beginning of an engagement, you could call it a kickoff, we call it a table stakes meeting, anything that you can do to help to level set, to say what does success look like for you, is so critically important, and it'll improve your success rate dramatically in my experience.
Oh yeah, I'm with you 300% on that one.
Yeah.
The EOS system, you're familiar with the EOS system.
Yes, of
Uh,
course.
I love the book traction, and they have
Hmm.
a variety of different meetings that they talk about. I like a big planning session. When I was president of different organizations, we would have a planning retreat, and each person, and the verticals are there, and we're planning things. We write them down, write them down, write them down. We write them down, we write them down. We make sure everybody gets a copy of what we wrote down, because until something is written down, it's fuzzy. But
Exactly.
once it's written down, then we can share it with other people a lot more clear. I really love that. I think that's critical. But there were some other things, and uh, I mean, you and I could just have a ton of fun working on how that works. There's a there's a little tool that I use called what is your top five and your top two.
Mhm.
So once a week, the key leaders, we would come together and we would say, okay, so I need you to, this is our team meeting. So this week, what are your top five priorities and what are your top two issues that you need to deal with this week? And so they would articulate them, and we would, identify their top priorities. Are those income producing priorities? What are they? Just tell me what they are. And then what are your top two issues? Now, that's one of the things about the EOS system that I love, is that they address issues. They create a place at the table for issues.
Yes.
Have you found that sometimes issues just get swept under the table? I don't really want to talk about those. Those are issues and maybe they'll go away. I haven't found that that works very well. I found that it's better to address the issues. What have you found about that?
I agree wholeheartedly, 1,000%. If that was a number, 1,000%. Because I think the thing that's really important is that the avoidance, it's almost like the equivalent of a cavity, right? You can have a cavity, and if you go early on enough, it's not going to be painful. But if you let that cavity, go and you delay it and it just festers, it gets bad until it becomes a root canal. And I don't know about you, but a root canal sounds pretty dang painful. So it's
They are. I
literally,
can speak from experience on that.
oh
It can
Lord,
be very
yeah.
painful.
Oh no, no. So it's really that. It's just like if there are issues, why not bring them to light and have those maybe sometimes uncomfortable situations? But it's all around how do you set the expectation so that people feel like they're being heard, and we remove the emotion out of it and just say, okay, I always equate it to, well, how do we qualify and quantify? I'm always saying that constantly, like how do we qualify that this is going to be a good outcome, right? Those qualification things, and then how do we quantify it? And so I have found that that's been really helpful for me. But tough conversations are necessary, and often when you get rid of it, it's like you clear the space for good stuff to come in. So not doing something about it is just letting it fester, and that is never productive, and inevitably you're going to have to deal with it. And why wait?
Well, it erodes trust too. It erodes trust
Absolutely.
when we've got an issue, we've got a problem, and you won't look at it. Why won't you look at it? You're sending me the wrong signal. Why won't you look at it? And so when they do look at it and address it, then my trust goes up because now I have confidence that you'll take care of these problems.
But I have found that when you modify the communication to the person receiving it, it's a game changer. And here's what I mean by that. Like I talked about the fact that I'm a key takeaway person. But there's other people who are more analytical, right? They want the numbers and the data, and they overdo it that way. And then there's other people who are more of the emotional people. They just want to be friends with everybody. They don't care about the numbers. So do you find that to be the case as well? And then the last group, pardon me, is amiables. Amiables are, I always equate them to be like the great worker bees behind the scenes. They're just making sure everything is functioning. They're the ones that bring potluck at the company party, and they are happy with, helping out. I find that those four personalities, I'm more of a driver, like a just bullet points, key takeaways, that kind of thing. Where do you see trust being potentially compromised if you don't understand that factor around how to communicate effectively with different personality types?
Oh boy, that's a really great question. I think it is number one important to recognize that there are different personality traits, and uh, that people are just gifted that way. That's their DNA. It's
Yeah.
built into them. They're not trying to be subversive. That's just the way they are. And I also believe that you still have to have the skeleton of numbers and strategies and techniques to hold up the rest of this body and the organs that it holds. And so there has to be a framework of processes, and these processes make a huge difference. And that those processes have to have numbers. They have to have metrics that drive them. I've got a great client that when we first started working together, it was just him and his secretary, commercial real estate. And one of the things that he's really great at are processes. And so when a commercial deal comes in, he just got a sheet, he pulls it out, and these are the processes that he goes through. Well, as he brought people on, that was a major thing that he did. He taught them his processes about how to take a deal and where it goes, what you do next, what you do after that, how you follow up. And and that made a huge difference. It helped those people to be more successful because he had a process. When I was a kid, we used to say rules were made to be broken, and I'm not soliciting that at all. But I think that rules have to have some flexibility, but we still need some kind of guideline to help us stay on track and go the right direction.
Yep. Totally
And
agree.
another illustration, a metaphor. Remember, I'm a big on metaphors. The way you drive a boat is much different from the way you drive a car. Because when you turn a car to the right or to the left, those wheels are pretty concrete about how they turn right or left. But when you steer a boat, you can't turn on a dime like that. They surf across the top of the water, and you turn left, and the rudder, it kind of pushes it, but it's not nearly exact yet. Both a car and a boat end up at a final destination
True.
with the right perspective on how they got there. What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
I love it. I love that analogy. That's absolutely true. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes I'm a car, sometimes I'm a boat. Sometimes my wife will say, "How come you've had gotten this done?" Well, what's the problem? It's only been 6 months. Um, so we need to do it quicker than 6 months. All right, well, I have another question that just kind of comes up. Um, how do you ensure when you come in and do a training, or you work with a company, work with an organization, how do you ensure that training sticks after the event is over? And it's not just a one and done and okay, boy, this is great. And I got a bunch of notes. How do you help it stick with your people?
Yeah. I would say that the initial engagement is where you can present ideas. And then some people, I'm very visual. So I really rely on pictures and storytelling, and I like the imagery. And I didn't realize, but it turns out that 65% of people are like that. So having those visuals, and then other people are auditory. So when we have our trainings, we have the visual components, something that people can read. They get the audio so that they can listen, because some people process it more. And then putting it into practice to say, okay, here's how you implement this thing that we're implementing for you. But in order for you to use it, here are the steps that you have to take. Because any adoption of a new method or framework or system is only as good as the person really adapting to it. And typically, change, as we have seen, people don't necessarily like change or enjoy change. And so if you can remove the friction on the perception that it's difficult, because people are like, oh, change, they make it's like a mountain. And it's really not. It's just adapting new things. And so if you can gamify it somehow, like today, here's the one thing you got to do, and you just kind of make it those bite-sized moves to implement and doing it consistently over time, then the cumulative is like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. I'm becoming accustomed to it. So I love what you said about your client who had everything operationalized or creating systems for everything, because that's it. It's having the systems. It's not just introducing a new concept, but it's systematizing it to adoption. And that's how it is. It's like checking into people. If you gamify it, that's even better.
Oh man, I love that. I love exactly the way you explained it. That's why, you and I have this chemistry because we think along the same lines. And audience, I just hope that you're, eating this up as much as we are. These are real things that make the world work as you bring about change. I'm the change energizer, and so change. People, just like you said, people don't like change, but they love to
No.
be energized, and to be able to energize them into a different direction to do things. If not just 2% different, let's do it 2% different, and we're headed towards this current course. Then it makes a big difference. I tell people, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, Scott, well, we need help. And well, can you come in and help us out?" And we've got this. We're in a jam here. We really need some help. We've been this way quite a while. And I'll tell them, I'm happy to come in and do a half day workshop or an all day workshop, but one workshop's not going to fix what you're talking about,
Yeah.
because the habit that got them where they are is not going to change in one workshop.
Well
And for
said.
me to be able to come in and do a half day workshop or full day workshop once a quarter or every other month, and then in between do some spot coaching or implement some programs that I can guide your key leaders on how to have those stand up meetings and what to say in those stand up meetings. Use the language, the language of change and the language of whatever it is you're inserting into a company. Doesn't come automatically, but if there are some catchphrases, they do. And one of the things, this may sound a little odd, But I love music. I love songs. I listen to a lot of songs. Many songs have a refrain that they'll do a verse and they'll sing this refrain. It's a verse, then the refrain. And if we as coaches and as speakers and leaders can create refrains in people's minds that are catchy, then they get them
Yes.
and they run with them. And
Yes.
so
That's so
there's a
smart.
few of those key statements that I love to lay out in people's minds. And one of those is if you have a schedule, people will line up behind you. If you don't have a schedule, then you'll line up behind them. And so when you think about creating time blocking for specific things that you need to get done every week or every day, if you have a schedule, then people will line up behind you because you would say, "Oh, I can't meet with you in the morning because in the morning I'm doing X, Y, and Z, but I could meet with you over lunch or in the afternoon." Well, then they're going to line up behind you. And so
Yes.
it's just little things like that that can make a big difference in people's lives. You probably do stuff like that. What do you do?
I love it. I love what you're saying. Absolutely. So, what we're talking about is the adoption of change and creating a system for change and seeing like kind of like I mentioned, it's like what are the stage gates, right, for that evolution of change, and then getting buy-in. A- and then the other thing that I heard, or the way that I've learned, is like people sometimes when it comes to change, they feel like it's so big. I just feel like they find it to be so insurmountable. And I was like, no, how do we set the bar so low that you cannot fail? And
Yeah.
so that's the equivalent of like a micro step. And I have found that micro steps lead to bigger, and you get into the momentum. I think what it is just getting people into that inertia, is getting them into momentum. So that feeds and it gives you data, and then they're getting responses or maybe accountability, and bringing in that movement is what starts. And what it comes down to is just moving into something new. So once you get it moving and then you're building out those elements, I think you're really setting up people for success when you do it that way, but they have to have a clear path that they buy into.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Repetition is the first art of learning. And when
Yes.
we've been in with companies where we do that every Monday morning or Tuesday morning or whatever it is, once a week, we ask them, what is your top five and your top two? Well, my top five priorities, my top two issues. What happens is now through the week, they know, I gotta have that together for Monday. What are my top five things? And what are my top two issues? And before very long, after about 6 weeks, now now they're thinking about it more, and it is becoming a part of them. What's the old phrase? Um, we start off and we are unconsciously incompetent.
Oh, yes.
We're
Yes.
incompetent. We don't even know we're incompetent. And
Yep.
then somebody like you or I, Patty or Scott come in and we find out, oh my God, I am consciously incompetent. Now I'm incompetent and I know why I am. I'm so bad. And then we work at some things, and over time we become, a novice at it, and then we get a little bit better over time, and eventually, we become consciously competent.
Mhm.
And I have to think about it. I still have to pull that out. Okay, scratch my head and write it down. But over months, not weeks, but over months, we eventually become unconsciously competent.
Mhm.
Now, when I've done that, whether it's in trust or priority management or whatever, that is how I've helped a company. When it becomes second nature and they
Mhm.
just think to do it. But companies have to invest in that. That doesn't happen from one workshop,
Yeah.
doesn't happen from one get together or retreat. That has to be an ongoing thing. And whether I do it, and you probably do this too, you probably really train somebody in the company so that they can be that inside man or woman to help uh, the verbiage go forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it starts from top down, right? So that these new ideas and new sentiments could cascade throughout the organization. I agree. I agree. It's really powerful when that happens.
Yeah, yeah, I love this. You know, um, I guess we could talk about this forever. I love, I could sit down with you. I wish you and I could work on a project together. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, it'd be
If you're
cool.
out there and you need her and I, you need Patty and I to come in and help you with your company because you really want to take it over the top and you've got a high stake win and you would like us to come in and just really knock it out of the park, pull your team together, then contact us and we can do that as a partnership and make some really great things happen. Uh,
I
so,
love it.
Patty, would you be up to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, I love what you're doing. I think that especially now more than ever, change and really understanding how to harness change and how to move through change while building trust and credibility. That's why we're in the trust economy. It's like the businesses that understand these fundamental principles that are evergreen, by the way, are the ones that are going to win long term. So I am absolutely all for that because it's the truth.
Yeah, you said something that I want to really clarify to our audience. When companies or leadership teams or internally teams are nervous and they see change going on, even
Yeah.
like we're in right now in the economy of the country and the world, they're apprehensive. They've got that stuff that is just in their tummy, and they're just apprehensive about stuff. The minute that you take action, you chart a course and take action, that pulls everybody into it together. And then you go from apprehension to confidence.
Mhm.
Yes, now I know where we're headed. I know what I'm supposed to contribute to the organization, and this is where we're going. And we're taking a Tesla to Mars, and so we can work together. So I love those kind of situations, and Patty, I know you do too. I can.
It's really fulfilling, absolutely, when you can see that and create real transformation because it's not just adoption of change, it's transformation. And that's next level. That's, in fact, how there's companies that you've heard the term they quantum leap. Well, they quantum leap when you have that type of movement, when you're coming together and creating those culture shifts, it's super impactful. And that for people like us, like with what we do, it's extremely rewarding. So
Oh yeah,
definitely
yeah.
win-win.
When people are speaking the same language, I call it elite high trust teams. And
Mhm.
when you have created an elite high trust team, they can take on these insane challenges. And it's just like watching a basketball game. Man, these guys are running from one end of the court to the other. They're tossing the ball. Somebody's shooting, somebody's blocking, and they're not even thinking about it because they've been doing it
Flow.
so long. They know exactly what they're doing. Those things can be a reality. So
Yeah.
if you're out there and that's the kind of team that you want, give me or Patty a call, and we'd be glad to come and help you. So, Patty, any last comments you want to make before we wrap it up?
No, Scott, thank you for this opportunity. I think it's been really rewarding, and I love the work that you're doing. It's so essential. It's so important. Companies deserve to have this type of thinking in their organizations. And if you are an organization that is struggling with, like, we're kind of stagnant, we're stuck. I mean, those are the kind of things that you'll hear in the organization. Morale is low. People are leaving. They'd rather be anywhere but there. That's how you know it's like take care of it because ignoring it is no longer an option if you want to be in it for the long haul. So it's really a call to adventure. Like jump in and take care of it. I mean, time is of the essence.
Absolutely. So, how can people get in touch with you?
Sure thing. So Patty Dominguez on LinkedIn. That is my primary social media platform. And our website is moreleverage.io, where we're helping small businesses build credibility with a blend of humans and AI so that it recognizes those trust signals.
Thank you so much, Patty, for coming on the
Thank
show
you.
today, being in the hot seat.
My
And,
pleasure and honor.
we're just throwing this ball back and forth. This has been a lot of fun today. Thank you for doing it.
Likewise. Appreciate you, Scott. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And we look forward to seeing you again at the next Change Energizer podcast.